Sometimes things just simply work out, and let's celebrate it.
This is the loud, quiet, living the empty nest.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 63 of The Loud Quiet. You can tell that we are not in our studio again. Hopefully both from the background noise and for those of you watching, you can tell that we are looking at Jackson Square in New Orleans.
We're not coming from you live from Arizona. This one is a different place.
That's right.
Yeah.
We're not in a car. Now, who knows what's going to happen. If y'all saw how this is set up, this is the most rigged camera setup that we've got. Somebody could just kick it here in a second. That'll make for some good bloopers. But we are in New Orleans and are excited about this trip.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you needed to do a miles run, and we threw around some places, and New Orleans came up, and we were like, we'd been there 20 some odd years ago as young married couples took a trip. Things got a little crazy on that trip. Some of us don't remember some of the
What
things
did I
that
say
happened.
as we walked by Mother's today? I said, I think that's where we went. I don't really remember.
I remember being up against a brick wall.
Yeah.
But anyways, it was, we had never been back here, and I don't know why. It wasn't on our list, but I am so glad that we came.
I know why, because that trip was so much about party and all that kind of stuff, and that wasn't what I was interested in. And you get kind of a reputation of New Orleans as hot and swampy, and Bourbon Street is gross and all that. Well, we had a totally different trip this time.
Yes, it was. Now, this episode is about everything went right. Now, this is our last day. We hope to continue that. But, I mean, everything
we may be filming
went
from
right.
New Orleans tomorrow.
Everything went right on this trip.
Well, and it didn't start.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You tell
No, I was laughing at you, and I say the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't start that way. We'd planned an hour to get to Left Field, a trip that's normally 35 minutes, but it was high traffic time. We start out, it's an hour 5, and it just kept ticking up more and more and more and more. And so when I say I wasn't sure we were going to make the flight, that's not true. We knew we were going to make the flight, but with Southwest, if you don't board when you board, you get the crappy seat, yada, yada. Well, this was a case of we thought the trip was going to start out badly. We should have realized the fact that we showed up and boarding was starting as we showed up is a sign that this was going to be the perfect trip.
Yeah, and it really, flight was great, on time, everything was good. We get to New Orleans, and you don't really need to rent a car here unless you're planning on doing, if you're planning on doing things outside of the main areas, then yes. But, so, we just got here and hit up Uber or Lyft. I don't remember what
it was Lyft, but yeah.
So,
and imagine, I want to set the stage a little bit. Imagine that we're talking about hundreds and thousands of people who are booking ride shares. Maybe not thousands, whatever, it doesn't matter. Lots of people.
There were a lot of people
and
out
there are lots of potential combinations between us and the ride that we're in.
Yeah.
And we got a shockingly perfect ride for us.
Yeah, it was. We get in the car, very nice car. Our driver introduced himself to us, Chris. Then he said, well, can I tell y'all about my morning? We were like, sure, go ahead. And I wasn't in the most chatty mood. We'd been up early. It was fine. But so he starts telling us about how he owns his own car company, driver service. But he had this mishap with a customer. She put in her home address, which was back in Houston. So they're headed that direction. He had to turn around. So then he ended up coming to pick us up. So we're continuing to talk to him, and
he revealed that he was an empty nester. And we're like, oh, you've got to be kidding. We're empty nesters. That's why we're able to travel out here on a random Thursday. We got a podcast and all that kind of stuff. And he decided to go ahead and tell us his empty nest story. Now, I was rolling tape on this, and we hope that we may be able to share this with you. I haven't asked his permission as of today. And so hopefully y'all will actually get to hear his story from his words. But he had the classic story of, my wife and I did not know what to do with each other. And here we are, two empty nest podcasters in the backseat. And I'm like, I don't know if we can help you, dude, but we're going to listen to your story. He said, well, you may remember the sentence.
Well, and he also said, when he found out that we had a podcast, he said, that's so good, because he said, we couldn't find any information. There's not a lot of books on this subject. But so he said, first of all, he said, my wife looked at me after we took our youngest, and they were a blended family, to college, and said, I don't really like you. And he said they had been having some issues already, but he was like, oh no. And then he just continued to tell us about, Rick went into interview mode.
I really did put it in interview mode. Sorry, y'all.
Good. But so he goes on to tell us his story. He also mentioned that he had gotten laid off. That's why he used the word, I had to reinvent myself, and that's why he started his car business. And, I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, we did an episode about reinventing yourself. He really was our target listener and storyteller of what the emptiness can be.
And I think that right there is the kind of the trip has been perfect, and it's just barely starting. I think it also reinforces that this is not an emptiness journey that is unique or rare. So many people go through that moment of, I don't like you, or I don't know you, or how are we going to be who we are after the kids are gone? And for him to reveal that to us, he did reinvent himself like we did. I thought what he did to try to start to connect back with his wife was really special. He paid attention to who she was and what she liked and what she needed. And I will be the first to say that I'm not great at that. It's hard, especially, I'm going to play gender role here. It can be hard to crack the female mind, especially because a lot of times y'all don't necessarily verbalize what you actually need. You use other words, and somehow we have to crack that code. He knew that she was at her happiest when she was back with her family back home. And I forget where back home was, but back home. Georgia, I think. Yeah. And so he booked him a trip for her to go back home. Kids are empty nest, so they can go out there. She works remotely. She's a therapist. And he goes back there, and I don't know when he revealed this to her, but he said, that was just a one-way ticket. We're going to go home at the point at which you are ready to go home. Yeah. And he said that was clearly
the turning
a moment.
Point. He said that was the turning point. And
for her, yeah.
Yes, and they had been there for several days, and she looked at him and said, okay, I'm ready to go home. Yeah. And they went home, and he said they've been working on it ever since, and things are good.
There was a specific moment that he described that was, for him, revealing that it was going to happen. I forget the timing. Thank goodness we've got it on tape. But they were discussing that this was hard, and there was a challenge, and this was not going to be easy to be empty nesters. And she reached out and squeezed his hand.
Yes, and I think they were in the car on the way. Oh, because that's where he met the guy that used to be one of his track stars, and he talked about how much he was making being a driver, and so it was everything for them came together in that one moment, and so that was just really interesting.
And he said, it's the first affection that they'd had in years, and there could be exaggerations in the story. New Orleans is very much, and I know it's an overused phrase, New Orleans is a storytelling culture, and we have had incredible stories along the way. For that to have started us off. Yeah.
It was just, we were like, all
right.
Our
jaw was dropping.
I mean, we got to the hotel, we were just getting out of the car, and just, did that really just happen?
Of all the things, of all the rides, for God to have put us in that ride, and hopefully in reverse, I sent him a text afterwards. Oh, and we'll put his business in there. If you're coming to New Orleans, he's the guy you want.
Yes, book him as a driver,
and so I actually texted him because he had his number there, and I said, hey man, thanks for sharing your story. Being the empty nest is amazing. It's challenging. It's always an adventure. You got this. Thanks for being our driver today. You gave him the loud quiet, of course, for him to check out.
Yeah. So then we could get into our
trip. Now it's vacation mode. It's not going to be all this serious.
Yeah, our hotel room was ready.
Hours early.
Yeah, late checkout given. Everything went smoothly. Room is awesome. We look out. We'll put some pictures, and we look out over the Superdome.
And look at this weather.
Unique. Yes. Oh yeah. It's beautiful here.
I said to you yesterday, I haven't seen blue skies like this since Arizona. Like, it's usually Arizona where you get this kind of color blue. Yeah. And I don't know why, but it's been fantastic to have this weather here. Yeah. So what do? We go out and wander.
Yeah. We went to the Garden District, wandered around, found a great little place to stop in, little cafe,
Nothing was
French
planned.
cafe. No.
We just
Not-
walked down the
yeah.
street, looked, and okay, well, we're not going to go to Commander's Palace, which
No.
is the famous one.
No.
I didn't know it was a famous one. But there was a crepe shop right next door, kind of bakery, crepe shop, and it was,
Excellent.
let me tell you,
Yeah.
pimento cheese and cracklins as in a crepe.
Very good.
Holy cow,
Yeah.
that was good stuff.
No, the only thing we had planned for the entire weekend was I booked a food tour for us, and that was on Friday.
Wait,
That-
we did a food tour?
I
You choosing to eat?
I know. So, that was the only thing that I had booked. I had some restaurant recommendations from your sister. So we decided, and also this bar that she said she wanted to really go to the last time, but they had their girls with them and couldn't go. So, we went back to the hotel, got ready, headed out to the Carousel, which is inside of, I don't remember the name of the hotel.
I don't, yeah. But if you look at the Carousel bar, you'll find it.
And we'll put up a picture of that. I mean, so this place was packed, and this was 4:30. Now we looked at it yesterday at 11, packed. So
And we didn't describe it. She's not
no.
just saying it's a carousel.
Yes, inside.
You sit on seats, and it rotates slowly around the bar.
You're in a carousel, and they've just, it's really, and
What'd you say, maybe
interesting
20, 30 seats, maybe?
Yeah, I
around
bet
it?
20.
So not a ton of seats, right?
Probably 30,
And this place was jammed.
packed, yes. So, of course, we're wandering around like, we're not going to. So we kind of, you can see all the lurkers and stalkers who are trying to get seats. So
We were lurkers and stalkers.
Yeah.
We're not disparaging them.
But
we
we
were
were not like right up against. There were some people that were right up against
True.
people. We
Yeah.
stood back. So all of a sudden I go, oh, that person's leaving. So we got one chair, walked up, got it, and then Rick just stood beside me and
as we
rotated around. And then the lady next to me said, hey, I'm about to get up. And she's like, now come over to this side. So it was like really.
Imagine. I thought about it last night. You know how Indiana Jones is trying to get the idol in the first thing, and you roll the sandbag in? That's exactly what she wanted me to do. So as she slid out of the seat, her butt left and my butt took over.
Because it was that kind of, you had to get into the chair.
And so here we
worked
are,
out great.
without any plans, we're rotating around the carousel. It just feels like things just, and I don't want to, you know what, I do want to say, sometimes things just simply work out, and let's celebrate it.
And we were just, so that shocked us.
We're like, that's it, all right, night's good.
Yeah,
all
then
right.
we were like, okay, well, let's head over to the restaurant and there's a bar section that you could wait for. You had called earlier.
No reservations. We called for weeks.
Yeah.
Nothing. You don't get
Excellent
reservations.
restaurant. Yes, because I had tried to make the reservation 3 weeks earlier, and the girl said, oh, you got to do at least a month out. I was like, really? So GW Finn's, excellent restaurant. So we get there, and you had called earlier, and Manette, the hostess.
Yeah, I was talking to Manette around 2 o'clock. I'm like,
Yeah.
hey, anything showing up? No. And she told me, but you come up to the bar. We can put you on a wait list on the bar, but there's not going to be any tables. Oh, 7 o'clock? No, you're not going to get any tables then. So and she was nice.
Yeah, and we walked in.
As is everyone.
Yes, we walked in, and you addressed her by name.
Hey, was I talking to you at 2 o'clock? Oh my gosh, yeah. Hey, if we can get, we'd love to sit. That whole thing of just being kind. And we're like, just put us on the wait list for the bar. And that's the part. We weren't, because we didn't have a plan.
Yeah.
We didn't really care.
No.
They kind of shuffle some. I could tell that they're putting us on the list and that kind of stuff. And then she goes, "All right, your table's ready."
Yeah.
What?
Uh-huh.
We walk into a restaurant that has one of the hardest reservations to get into New Orleans, and are seated within 5 minutes. And no, I did not slip her $20 to get seated. She just
you did after we left.
It's a reward as opposed to a bribe. And she didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it was a spectacular. GW Finn's was an amazing meal.
Yes, meal
I
was
had
excellent.
the
service excellent.
The service was spectacular. The appetizers, the dumplings,
you had the scallopet.
The scallopet was spectacular. So imagine a halibut that is wrapped in scallops. I need to say no more.
Tucked it, they were. It's very weird how they make that. Yeah,
so good.
I had the snapper. I mean, it was the biggest piece of fish I've seen. Yes, everything was so good.
Noelle was a brilliant server. She was so delightful the whole evening. And then the dessert was a ice cream salted caramel pretzel pie thing. So good.
So very, very good meal.
So again, another thing worked out.
Yes. Yes, totally. So then we were like, well, let's just walk on Bourbon Street, And I will say, the Bourbon Street now versus the Bourbon Street then. Like, when we were here last time, I was like, okay, too many pictures of girls.
Strip club.
Yeah.
But
and
not
the
hiding
strip
anything.
clubs are still there, but they didn't have all those posters plastered up like they did the last
massive
time.
posters, yeah.
So they've cleaned it up a little bit, and
feels that way.
And there were definitely, I will say, there were more people our age and older out on Thursday night than there were. Well, last night we walked back out and it was crazy, but you know, we walked up and down, found a band, heard a band. We're like, oh, let's go in here. Well, it ends up it's the same bar club that we were at 20 something years ago. So
I had a lot
we
more.
recognized the stage. So
yeah, I'd had a lot more to drink back in my 30s. This time I remember this was more, for those that are in Dallas, this was the Emerald City kind of vibe.
Yeah,
it was that music,
was
just fun, upbeat horns, just a good band, good time, that sort of thing.
Super fun. So again, worked out.
Just to stumble in.
We left there, walked back to the hotel.
Loved it.
Good, you know, got some sleep. And so the next day, we really were just like, we had our food tour booked, but again, that was it. So I had been looking, and I was like, oh, there's the hop on, hop off bus. Why don't we try that?
And you've seen it here in the background come through a few times, actually. It's the big red bus, double-decker.
So again, got over here, got our tickets, got seats up on top. Everything
Which is the
out.
coveted seat to be up top and all that. So, yeah,
so
totally
did our
out.
little tour around New Orleans. It was great. So much
and
fun.
Then at every other stop, people couldn't get seats. So, again, it just worked out that it was perfect for us. And so then it was food tour time.
Yes.
And that was absolutely delightful.
Yes. Amazing.
We started with red beans and rice, ended with a bread pudding, and had about 6 or 7 other things in between. Clancy will put the link in the...
Oh, so good.
Yeah, you'll get the link down there in the show notes so that y'all can do that same food tour. It is spectacular.
Yes, it was.
Mike was an awesome tour guide.
Yes, this was one that we did not have. There was nothing that I was like, that was okay. Everything was excellent, and everyone was so friendly again. And our tour guide was great. And it was funny. He actually mentioned, because he came around and was like, okay, is there anything you're looking to eat here? Let me give you some recommendations. And someone said something, and he said, well, if you can get into this place, he said, I doubt you can, because he's like, but GW Fins, and we're like, oh, went there last night.
We went there last night, showed up and walked right in.
Yeah, and he said the scallopet, and Rick was like, I had the scallopet. So yeah, it was just a fun.
That was a reinforcement of, because, okay, maybe everybody can walk in and get a reservation, but to have that reinforcement of, wait, y'all actually got into GW Fins? So.
And again, shout out to Rachel for giving us that recommendation. And he had mentioned, we were like, we wanted a little more tame night. Not that we went crazy or anything, but although I don't know if you're going to put my dancing video up there. But anyway.
Well, that's quite a tease. Maybe that'll just be a short. Subscribe on YouTube.
So he had mentioned this place in Jackson Square, which we are, and it's through the trees over there. But he said it's a great balcony if you can get up there and get a drink. So we showed up.
Be a little crowd around sunset, but maybe you get in.
We showed up, and the girl was like, yeah, there's a wait. And we're like, okay, well, how long? Oh, about 15 minutes. Okay, that's nothing to us.
Fine by me.
And I don't even think it was that long. We got up. Great experience.
You're overlooking Jackson Square with a cocktail, and I don't know that I would necessarily recommend. The food didn't look anything. We didn't have any food there, but what a view to just have a drink.
The bread was excellent. Yes, the bread was very good. They bring you this paper bag of their warm bread. Yeah. Oh, so good. I think it's in the Brennan's family, so people who know New Orleans, but very, very good. So then we left there, went and ate some Creole food. And
you skipped over the oysters that we stumbled into.
Oh, I forgot.
So again, food.
Sorry,
food. But the tour guide had suggested an oyster place, and I had lost confidence in my note taking, and we were going the wrong way. And Clancy, somehow our roles reversed. She's the one who said, "No, it feels like it was this direction," which is such the way I usually do maps and guidance. She was right. Took us right there. We walk into a place that's empty. We're wondering, is this going to be any good? And he had said they were really cheap oysters. The tour guide actually told us the wrong price, but we're talking about
still cheap.
The difference between 90 cents and $1.20 oysters, right? Yeah. And the guy gave us he shucked the oysters right in front of us, served those up. They were delicious. And then he made a charbroiled one that was spectacular.
So good. Yes, very good.
Garlic, parm. It was, I've never done charbroiled oysters, and those were really good. Yeah. And then had our Creole Cajun food. Did a little walking. Oh, I'm about to skip the.
Yeah. What?
I'm about to skip the jazz.
I know. And this was another recommendation from our tour guide. He was like, go to the Mahogany Hall. You know, again, it's going to be slammed. We walked in. Yes, the front part right by the band was slammed. I mean, this is a tiny corridor of a house. And so, but then if you walked back, there was another room that had leather couches, a nice ambiance.
A really cool light that you're now looking at when I show you this picture of Clancy in front of this lamp.
Yes. So it was just, again, we stumbled in, found a place, comfortable.
And we got seated.
Music was excellent.
Well, and this is about how it just, everything kind of works out. The moment we sat down, suddenly there was a flood of people behind us trying to find seats.
Yeah, we were always like 2 steps ahead of everyone else on this trip.
So it's going to counterbalance. So get ready for the next episode that's going to have something else.
So yeah, great music. I mean, we stayed there for probably
a couple hours. Yeah, a couple hours just
Uh-huh.
sitting there. Good cocktails, great jazz.
Yeah.
And then it was time to come home.
Yeah.
We
We wandered down Bourbon Street one more time, and then
I would say
decided we were not interested in going anywhere.
No.
So, yeah.
And then,
great.
so this is our last day here. You can see we decided to come out and just shoot the episode with Jackson Square in the background.
I know I have on my cheesy tourist shirt, but I had something else on, and it was so hot. I didn't realize it was going to be this hot and humid today, so I had to pop into a shop and buy a shirt.
Let's put some scale on that, though. Hot and humid means it's actually 72, right? It's not.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day. Just a sweater doesn't work for today.
Yeah, then
so yes, you get to have a little tourist, big, easy New Orleans T-shirt.
Yes, I do.
You did not get the. I shuck them. T-shirt. They're talking about oysters, right?
Yeah. So yeah, no, it's been a great trip, and we've already said why we need to start coming here more.
I described it as. We used to think of where can you go for a weekend in Dallas? Well, Austin, of course, but because of family there, it doesn't always feel like the tourist destination. San Antonio, always comes to mind. This one adds to or almost replaces San Antonio because there are so many restaurants and maybe there aren't as many activities left to do, but there's so many other places I want to eat.
Yes. Yeah.
That's all I want to do.
And there are a lot of places to eat in San Antonio, but when you're on the Riverwalk, we've kind of done them. So, but
we didn't, here's an example. We didn't do the World War II Museum, which people say is spectacular. We didn't have the time to do it right, so we chose not to do it wrong.
So we will come back.
So we're going to watch the Tom Hanks documentary at the beginning and then do the museum.
Yeah,
that'll
which
be
is
another
what our
report.
Tour guide suggested. Yeah. So if you're coming here and you're going to do that, that's what he suggested is the best way to do it.
It shapes the whole museum because then you know what's going on. So there's a little tip. Yeah. All right.
So now we'll continue with our day and hope that everything else just keeps going right. And
we sure hope so. And I guarantee we're going to do some more eating.
Yeah, of course.
Well, it's been fun here being in New Orleans. It's been fun recording another episode of The Loud Quiet, Living the Empty Nest.